The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of Digi-all. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to Digi-all Tech News. Today is December 4th, 2025. I'm Kylie Brooks. And wow, do we have a packed show for you today. We're talking AI control, government robotics policies, billion-dollar economic bets, cybersecurity nightmares, and a crypto comeback. This is where technology becomes clear and engaging. Let me give you the headlines first, because honestly, every single one of these stories tells us something important about where we're headed. Bernie Sanders just delivered what might be the most important speech on AI this year, asking the question nobody in Silicon Valley wants to answer: who actually controls humanity's future? The Trump administration is shifting gears from AI to robotics, and that tells us everything about the new industrial competition with China. Even the AI optimists are getting nervous. Anthropic's CEO just admitted his company could go bankrupt if they bet wrong on compute purchases. Brazil is under siege by a banking Trojan that's spreading through WhatsApp like wildfire, and it's using some seriously clever tricks. And Bitcoin just jumped back above $93,000, but the story behind that rally is way more interesting than the number itself. Alright, let's dive into the Bernie Sanders story, because this one really got to me. On December 2nd, Sanders gave a speech at Georgetown University, and at 84 years old, he's still asking the questions that make powerful people uncomfortable. Here's his core argument. A handful of billionaires, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, are making decisions about AI that will affect all of humanity, and they're doing it with basically zero democratic oversight. Think about that for a second. The most powerful technology in human history is being developed by people who answer to shareholders, not citizens. And the job numbers he cited? They're staggering. We could see nearly 100 million jobs eliminated in the US in the next decade. 40% of nurses, 47% of truckers, 64% of accountants, 65% of educational assistants, 89% of fast food workers. Musk himself said AI will replace all jobs. Bill Gates said humans won't be necessary. So Sanders is asking the obvious question: how do people survive without income? But it gets darker. He called out Larry Ellison's vision of total surveillance, recording everything to, quote, improve behavior, unquote. That's not about safety, that's about control. And the environmental cost? OpenAI's data center in Texas uses as much power as 750,000 homes. Meta's in Louisiana? 1.2 million homes worth. Communities are being destroyed for this infrastructure. Sanders promised to deliver recommendations to Congress on employment, privacy, environment, and warfare. Because yes, he's also worried about robot armies making war too easy. This isn't anti-technology rhetoric. This is asking who benefits and who pays the price. And right now the answer is pretty clear. Speaking of government policy, let's talk about what the Trump administration is doing with robotics. After pushing hard on AI, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is now meeting with robotics industry CEOs, and they're considering an executive order on robotics next year. The Commerce Department said it directly. Robotics and advanced manufacturing are central to bringing critical production back to America. The Transportation Department is about to announce a robotics task force, possibly before the end of the year. And here's the competitive landscape. China has 1.8 million industrial robots. That's 4 times more than the United States. Countries like China, Japan, and Germany have national robotics strategies. We don't. But here's the tension that nobody's talking about openly. Trump campaigned on revitalizing manufacturing jobs. Robotics automates those exact jobs. Industry leaders like Jeff Cardenas from Apptronic and Brendan Schulman from Boston Dynamics say robots augment human capabilities and create new jobs in maintenance and deployment. Maybe. But you can see the contradiction, right? How do you bring back manufacturing jobs while accelerating the technology that eliminates those jobs? Now let's get into the economics of AI, because Dario Amodei's comments at the New York Times Dealbook Summit yesterday were remarkably candid for a CEO. Amodei runs Anthropic, the company behind Claude, and he's usually pretty optimistic about AI progress. But listen to this growth trajectory. Anthropic went from zero revenue to $100 million in 2023, then to $1 billion in 2024. They're aiming for $8 to $10 billion by the end of this year. That's exponential. But here's the problem. Data center construction takes 1 to 2 years. So Amodei has to buy compute capacity for 2027 right now, without any guarantee of returns. He put it bluntly, "If I don't buy enough compute, I'll have to turn customers away. If I buy too much, I might not get enough revenue to pay for it." And in the extreme case, there's the risk of going bankrupt. He's contrasting Anthropic's enterprise focus, aiming for break-even by 2028, against OpenAI's projected 2030 profitability after $7.4 billion in losses. But here's what worries me: the circular financing from Nvidia, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. If you stack all those deals, these companies might need $200 billion in annual revenue by 2027 or 2028. That's a massive bet. Amodei also talked about export controls on AI chips to China, defending them by saying if this technology gets plopped down in an authoritarian country, they can outsmart us in every way. On jobs, he thinks AI might eliminate entry-level roles but could boost human productivity tenfold, with government retraining and redistribution from 5 to 10% economic growth, enabling shorter work weeks. That's optimistic. But his admission about bankruptcy risk? That's the most honest thing I've heard from an AI CEO in months. All right, shifting to cybersecurity, because Brazil is dealing with 2 major threats right now, and both of them show how sophisticated these attacks are getting. First, there's a banking Trojan being spread by a threat actor called Watersatsi through WhatsApp worms. Here's how it works. You get a message from someone you trust, someone whose account has already been compromised, with an attachment that looks legitimate. Maybe it's an HTA file or a PDF. It lures you to download a fake Adobe Reader update. That triggers Visual Basic scripts that download the actual payload from remote servers. The malware checks for Brazilian Portuguese language settings, scans for banking apps like Bradesco and Itaú, analyzes your Chrome history for financial sites, monitors window titles for banks and crypto platforms, injects malicious code into system processes, and creates fake overlays to steal your credentials. It's got key logging, screen captures, file operations, everything. Trend Micro says the attackers are even using AI to convert scripts and improve their worm-like spreading techniques. The second threat is Relay NFC, an Android malware that's been spreading since early November through phishing sites. It's built with React Native to evade detection, and it enables real-time NFC data relay for contactless fraud. Attackers can emulate point-of-sale devices remotely through WebSocket connections, relaying card data and pins from victims' devices. It's similar to tools like Supercard X, facilitating EMV chip fraud. If you're in Brazil and using mobile banking, you need to be extremely careful right now. And finally, let's talk about Bitcoin's rally. Because yes, it jumped back above $93,000. That's an 8% rebound from Monday's lows and the highest in 2 weeks. But the really interesting story is what's driving it. Timothy Misir from BRN attributed the surge to short squeezes above 93,000 from overcrowded positions. Basically, too many people bet against Bitcoin, and when the price went up, they got liquidated, which pushed the price even higher. Bitcoin has seen $732 billion in new capital this cycle. That's double the previous cycle. US Bitcoin ETFs saw $58.5 million in inflows on December 2nd, the 5th straight day of inflows. Solana products added $45.8 million. Ethereum ETFs had $9.9 million in outflows, though. Here's the Wall Street embrace part. Vanguard is enabling trading of Bitcoin, XRP, and Solana funds. Vanguard. Bank of America is suggesting 1 to 4% allocations and will cover Bitcoin ETFs like BlackRock's IBIT next year. That's a huge shift in institutional acceptance. QCP Capital described markets as calm on the surface, tense underneath, with 90% odds of a 25 basis point Fed rate cut on December 10th. On-chain metrics show a $1 billion tetherment on Tron boosting liquidity, and Tom Lee's Bitmine buying 97,000 Ether. But miner profitability is under strain, whale accumulation has stalled, though MicroStrategy's $1.4 billion reserve is curbing selling pressure. Analysts are viewing this rally as liquidation-fueled confidence, not structural change. So watch the ETF flows, on-chain metrics, and what the Fed does next week. That'll tell us if this is sustainable or just another short squeeze. So that's where we are. Bernie Sanders is demanding democratic oversight of AI. The Trump administration is betting on robotics to compete with China. Anthropic's CEO is admitting the risk of bankruptcy. Brazil is under cyber attack. And Bitcoin is rallying on institutional interest and short squeezes. Every one of these stories connects to a bigger question about power, control, and who benefits from technological change. We'll keep following all of them as they develop. Thank you for staying informed with Digi-all Tech news. We'll be back with more updates as they develop.